Boom. Boom chakalaka.
I'm the Chief Rocka. You love to start with that.
I know. Oh, so funny. It's one of my favorite things. Anyway, wow. Here we are again. I've been looking forward to this. Welcome, everybody.
Hello, hello. I wasn't even sitting down, and she's already ready to rear and go.
Riffing.
Yeah,
Let's do this.
Yeah.
I'm ready to talk today.
Rock and roll.
I am ready to talk. Well, welcome to, we're bringing this live, well, not live, but bringing it to you from Portland.
Yep.
And
another day, kind of gray, beautiful.
Gray.
I love the rain myself. I'm all about the Northwest. I'm a little mountain man.
You are.
Rain boy.
You are a rain boy. I think most people who live here are into that. You need to be.
Yeah, if they're not, they should just get out.
Well, guys, welcome to another episode of Everything
and Nothing.
Everything and Nothing.
With your hosts, I am SumOne.
And I am Anezka.
Since the last time we did this, you actually took a gander and a page book out of what we're doing and had your first solo session on the mic.
Podcast called Got Shui.
Got Shui.
And it's funny because this podcast really was a catalyst for me breaking out and finally doing my own podcast, which is something that I've been thinking about doing for many, many years, 10, 15, a long time.
And
seriously.
she's got this back catalog, all this expertise of feng shui and energy, which is like a very niche yet relatively popular topic. It's like you might as well share some of that, you know?
Yeah. Well, and I was debating because I definitely want to share more than just feng shui. So I'm going to try and bring in other elements as well. Yeah. And so I did my, after our last talk, we were like, just get out of your comfort zone. And so it was,
exactly.
Thursday, or I think I called Dane and said, hey, you know what? I was just like, I'm going to do this. Like after our, I took it to real heart. I'm like, let's just go for it. So that Friday, I wrote out my mission business plan. I woke up Saturday morning and I was scared to death. I was so scared. I was like, oh my God, what did I get myself into? And
it's so funny because to me, it's like, there's no pressure of anybody on you at all, at least until you publish it, right? Like
right.
You can just,
So I didn't even really know what I was going to talk about Friday night. I mean, I kind of had a vague idea. And then I got up this morning and the pressure of having to do this, I wrote out the format in 30 minutes right before I had to leave. And so I hurry up and put all my stuff together. I came over here and I'm like, I don't know. And he's like, well, we can always delete it. And I'm like, that's true. So I did it. And,
and we didn't delete it.
We didn't delete it. And, it was pretty rough. I mean, around the edges. It's, but I don't care. I did it. And I'm really
I think she's got natural talent. I think she did just fine.
You're sweet.
Obviously,
Thank you.
First time on the rodeo, you're going to get kicked up a little bit,
Yeah.
It's just natural, normal.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was cool. What are your thoughts on doing it solo versus having a co-host?
Oh my God, it's so much harder.
It is.
I was like, I can't wait to come and do this today because I feel like it's like so much easier.
I'm the same with music. I'm like, please, God, let me share the spotlight. I don't want to have everybody's eyes on me.
Because we can like throw the ball back and forth if you're kind of like, oh, I need a moment to think about this.
Exactly.
Whereas, when it's just you and you're looking right in the camera and you're like, you don't want there to be dead space. And you're like, just say something, But it's good. And I will say, so I did, at one point in my life, I was going to be a professional actor and I did do acting. And I will say that training and improv and things that I did, I felt are very beneficial in some of these moments where you're, in front of the camera and talking.
Yeah, you find silence and you just, you have tools to deal with that. Mm-hmm. Like, oh, just go this direction. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I will say, since that podcast and since the motivation to do my own podcast got shui, I have still been in that state of discomfort. And so that's something that's interesting is like, even though you do something, I feel like sometimes it can move you into, another category where it's going to take a while for that to become the new norm. I'm still a little stirred up in my life and next steps, and I've got my next one to think about, and there's a lot more work to do in my life around this, but it still feels fun.
And we're gonna link underneath. You can check under the video if you want to check out what she did on her own.
Yep.
It's pretty cool, pretty good first
pretty short
stab at it. So check that out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well,
so,
back to our
topics. So,
it was funny. We talked a little bit this morning, getting a coffee, and neither of us, as far as I was concerned, as of an hour ago, had yet decided what we were going to talk about.
True.
So,
True.
Luckily for me, you get to go first today.
I was going to ask you, who's going first today? Oh, dang it. Okay, no, I'm all good with that. Yeah, so what's really come up for me today is I've been, and I don't know, we may have talked about this before, but it's come up again. So I really want to talk about boundaries. A part of my feng shui work, I've been going into, well, let me just back up. As a feng shui consultant, really what a big part of my job is listening to people. And I feel like in a way I am a counselor. I seriously do.
No, it's true.
Because you're hearing people's stories about their life and their pain and what's not working, and then their successes, and and they're bringing all this to the table. And I've gotten really good at holding this container for people and then translating that out into their environment and helping them create a home, an apartment, a business that then reflects who they do want to be. And so from years and years, and I also felt like I was doing this with my friends when I was younger and in college and stuff too. So it's kind of like another one of my niches that I'm beginning to really acknowledge about myself.
Yeah.
So I have been doing some feng shui body sessions with people that are more around counseling with people and helping them really get clear about what's called human luck, right? Who you are inside and what's going on and how to make those shifts. And so it's been really up this last week. Boundaries have been up. And so I wanted to kind of like talk about so what are boundaries? I mean, why are they important? And how can you get healthy boundaries? Like if you feel like you don't know, how could you maybe get some boundaries?
Well, the most important word, I think, in establishing boundaries is no. And a lot of people just off the bat are not very comfortable because saying no or putting a negative on somebody else's suggestion or wants, it's a lot of people like to please. They like to make the other person happy, and
true.
they like to they disempower themselves when they do that. So by being able to step up and first recognize what it is that makes you uncomfortable, and uncomfortable enough that you don't want it to permit it or tolerate it in your life, then you have to take the next step. And when you come up against that in a relationship, whether it's with a significant other, a random stranger on the street, whatever work colleague you might have, you have to be able to just put your foot down and say, no, I'm not okay with that. That's not going to work for me. And if this is an impasse, then there will be consequences one way or another. Now, compromising is important,
right?
And a lot of times we also, if we're saying no, am I being unreasonable? That's a valid question you should ask yourself and you should explore. But if you fall too much on that side of the fence, you're going to get ran over time and time again.
Right. Absolutely. And I feel like boundaries is a cornerstone. We talk a lot about how to deal with conflict. And I think you can't really learn how to deal with conflict, which is, I think, what our country is going through, is we're trying to grow up and learn how to be okay with differences. And in order to be okay with differences, you have to learn how to deal with conflict. But the cornerstone of that is, I think, first you have to understand what a boundary is. And so boundary, I think, is almost like a watered down word that we don't even really like. Boundary, that's just, no, but I think it's more than that. And I want to share what I kind of wrote, because I had a client who was like, I don't need help, he was like, boundaries, I don't know, that word just doesn't work for me. And so I was like, well, how can we break this down to make it more palatable or understandable. It wasn't
Yeah.
that he didn't understand the word. I'm not saying that at all.
He just didn't like the
Yeah.
use of the word.
And so I came up, I'm like, well, how about thinking about it as like a line, like an energetic line in a way between two or more things, right? That creates the ability to observe another person, place, or thing without being filtered through your own trauma, wounds, and experiences. So for me, it's like, it's like this imaginary space. So you're not really up in someone's stuff or whatever. It kind of creates a space where you can observe
Yeah, separation.
without, without identifying, without it being identified with their point of view or their need or their pain or their want. It doesn't mean that we can't have empathy, but we're not like enmeshed in it, or we're not like, like we can just observe. And also the other part of a boundary, I think, is the ability to really hear. Like if you have a good boundary, then you can really hear what someone's saying. You can really see them, and you're not like taking it through your own judgments and filters of pain and trauma. It's like you get to the point where you can really be clear, like, oh, that's you having a moment, and I can sit here and be there with you.
Interesting. So you're talking not so much about drawing a boundary, the context we typically talk about it in right now. You're more talking about what is the boundary, what is the space that exists between you and
Exactly.
me? How do we interact with that in a healthy
Right.
way?
And then
We can draw.
and then you draw it.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
don't you think, like, I mean, for me, like the first part of a healthy, you can't have a boundary if you don't know who you are.
That's
right?
true. I mean, you
How do you
can, but it might not be very useful.
Or it might not be true.
Yeah, or you might not be able to enforce it.
Right. Because I think that's the first step for me, is like, first of all, what is a boundary? Okay, a boundary is this ability to, for me anyway, it's like to not enmesh with another, to be able to be who I am. And then the next part of my boundary is to know who I am. What are my values? What are my morals? Where are the places where I'm a clear no and a clear yes? And then I think that's then when it comes to like what you said, somebody comes up and says blah, 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 and you're like, nope.
That's true. Yeah, if you really know who you are and you're really confident in yourself, you don't have to like consciously draw a boundary, because you know where it is,
Right.
and you're not going to go there anyways.
Right. But do you think, I mean, like, okay, well, let's talk about ourselves. So do you feel like you know what your boundary is? And I mean, you know what a boundary is, and do you know yourself?
Yeah, I mean, maybe, hopefully. I come across, a lot of people tell me, is very blunt and honest and truthful, and asshole, I guess is another word for that. And I
They don't
think,
have a very good boundary. No, I'm kidding.
I think that is a trait of being really true to who I am and what I believe. I have a pretty clear conviction of what's right and wrong.
Yes, you
And
do.
a lot of it's gray, and I acknowledge that. But within that, there are certain things obvious
you
to me
know.
that, they just, in the heart, in the mind, in the divine,
Yeah.
they are true.
Yeah.
So I don't mind standing up. I don't mind speaking. I don't
Yeah.
mind being that abrasive force to hopefully, correct and bring some truth and some light back in. And pisses a lot of people off. So and once again, we've talked about this multiple times, in my younger days, and I think in yours and in most people's as well, I went through a, decade of life where I was very codependent. And that is that enmeshed that you're talking about,
Right.
where those boundaries are no longer separate. You're no longer your own, independent,
Right.
strong, structural self.
Yes.
You are now codependent on somebody else's
Yes.
energy to feel complete. So I spent a lot of time there, not good at drawing boundaries, bending over backwards, contorting myself in pretzels to, appease another crazy point of view.
Yes.
And I don't regret it. It was a great learning lesson,
Yeah.
and bless her heart. But yeah, contrasting that with who I am now, I might be too good at drawing boundaries.
I have to think about that.
Yeah, I
Too
don't
good
know.
at drawing brownies. Well, and yeah, because I mean, it's not about separating ourselves from other people or places or things. You know, for I guess so for me, you know, it's about finding that healthy boundary, right? And knowing again, like what is that? Because I mean, a perfect example for me is that so in our family, my mom, your grandma was always like, family is the absolute most important thing, no matter what. And it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, it's a fine philosophy.
It is a fine philosophy and it has worked in so many ways. And yet one of our family members, my oldest brother, was very toxic. And what I mean by that is that growing up, he was very abusive. And I'm not complaining. I'm just explaining a situation about how I had to finally come and use a boundary. And it was physically dangerous, you know? But we got through that and we grew into adults, and it seemed like things would get better and then they wouldn't. They'd get better and then they wouldn't. And there was always this little bit of sense of danger. You know, there was always this like when someone's out to hurt you or harm you, you know?
Yeah.
And there were many conversations like what we're having, these what I call come to Jesus moments where we were really trying to bond and heal. And sometimes they would take, but it seemed like he would always revert back to this, you know, like, I'm going to destroy you, like, I want to hurt you thing. And so years and years of pain and, you know, like, but this is family. And mom said, no matter what, you are there for family, no matter what. And it was through exploring this boundary, my sister had given me a book called, introduced me to a book called Set Boundaries, Get Peace by Nedra Glover Tawaab, I think. Anyway, we'll put that in the description on the link. And I read that book and it was just like, you know, like the light bulb went off for me. And I've done work on this before. This isn't like it's a new topic. And at first I was like, I don't really need to read this. I've done this. But I read it and it was like the light bulb came on in a whole new way. And I recognized that there's like, I know who I am. And I had shifted and done so much work that I got crystal clear that love you, Mom. And when something is unhealthy and there is someone who is not willing to meet you halfway and do the work and, you know, stop making threats and doing threatening things, it's okay to put a boundary there and be like, nope, done. And that's what my sister and I did. We just said, that's a boundary. I know who I am and you're being very hurtful. And it feels dangerous, and I don't have to do that anymore. And it was the most game-changing moment. It was hard because it went against years of training.
Well, and see, the most fascinating part of that story to me is that you drew a boundary between you and your brother.
Yeah.
But what I really heard you say there is that you drew a boundary between you and your mom.
Wow. I'm getting emotional on that.
I heard that.
And that probably was the first boundary that I had to, you know, like, I love you, Mom, and I have to do what's right.
You're wrong about it this time.
Yeah.
You know? Sorry, Marie. You're wrong this time.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wow. I never saw that, Dane. That is, wow. I'm going to have to go home and think about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But and what's interesting is that creating that boundary actually built trust with myself. That's the other thing that happened that I wasn't expecting from a healthy boundary is suddenly I felt like I was taking care of myself and not putting myself in a dangerous situation and not putting myself in a situation where I was continually going to be verbally abused. And, you know, like I didn't realize how much I was always on edge waiting for the shoe to drop. like how much anxiety was in my life. Like every time I had to talk to that person, every time I was going to see that person, it's like, oh shit. I felt like I was in this I felt like I was traumatized.
Yeah. Yeah.
And since that boundary was grown, I was like, I trust myself more. That's what's interesting too.
I mean, you took some of your power.
Yeah.
You know, you empowered yourself to make a decision and stand in your own truth of who you are and what you will and will not tolerate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's the whole point of boundaries, right? Is to create healthy containers.
Well, how about this? What if it's not about knowing yourself and then setting boundaries? What if you define yourself by the boundaries you set?
That's a whole nother perspective that I have to think about. My mind just got blown a little bit.
We got to both think a little bit. This is a good topic.
But you know, it's interesting because, okay, can you say that again? Say that again. So
yeah, I said, what if you don't know yourself and then draw boundaries? What if you define yourself by the boundaries that you draw?
Well, and here's what's interesting is what you just brought out about my mom, right?
Yeah.
You know, like that's like that's a whole nother definition of myself that I didn't even understand was
part of it.
Was part of that.
Yeah.
You know, like, cause yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna have to think about that. That's really interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is.
And I mean, and this I feel like applies to everything, right? So it applies to, you know, our relationships, our love relationships. It can apply to our job, our employers, you know.
Yeah.
So it's this interesting concept.
I mean, with our neighbors, with
Yeah.
our lovers, with our bosses,
Yeah.
with, like I said, interactions you have with people on the street or at, you know, the restaurant you're at.
Yeah.
We're constantly doing it. I mean,
Yeah.
drawing boundaries effectively is just making decisions. Only drawing a boundary is making a decision involving somebody else is where most of the time you're just making decisions with yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that's the beautiful thing is like since thinking about this and working with this topic all this last week, I'm running up against some of my own boundaries of work beliefs and commitments that I've made to myself that I keep crossing.
Yeah.
And
I do that too.
And so I'm like, and I don't feel good about myself when I do that. I'm like, oh, or with my eating, you know, I'll put it like, no, we're going to have water now. And then I go in and eat a bag of chips. Well, I don't eat a bag of chips, but I'll eat a handful. And I'll be like, well,
yeah, you betrayed yourself.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's interesting. So I'm like, well, do I just stop putting up boundaries for a while so I don't feel bad?
I think,
or,
yeah.
You know, but it's like that. But it's good because I think it helps. It doesn't matter, like you said, that time period where you were just like bending over backwards and whatever. You learned a lot from that. I'm learning a lot from crossing this line back and forth. Like, okay, that was a little too far. You know, like I gave too much away of myself this week in work. And I said I wasn't going to do that. I was only going to schedule 2 jobs. And then I end up doing 4. And I give all my energy away. And then I'm too tired to do some of the stuff that I need to do for myself. And so that's a real problem for me because I'm still working on my boundary of I feel people's anguish and I want to be of service. I want to help so badly that sometimes I sacrifice my own well-being. And I'm really working on not doing that because I do not think that is good for the whole. Good for the whole is to make sure that my cup is full too. And that's a
big one.
It's a big one.
It's easy to misinterpret it as selfishness, but it's actually the most selfless thing, I think. Really to be strong and sure and full in your own right allows you to be stronger for your community.
Yeah.
One thing, so you said you maybe just stop setting boundaries. I don't think that's the right answer. I think that willpower is the strength of will and of being able to contain and discipline yourself within the boundaries that you set. And I think it's very much like a muscle. I think you have to rep it. You have to practice it. You have to fail it. And the more you push that and the more you do push it and fail it, I think it gets stronger and gets easier. So I think you have to keep eating bags of chips every now and then. But
practicing.
Yep. But then, hopefully just get better and better.
Yeah, I have examples of people who are good with willpower. Jim is one. I think you were one of those.
I feel pretty good.
Me,
yeah.
I don't.
I fail with some vices, but
it's tough for me.
Yeah.
I struggle with that. So my last just part of this that I want to go back to, because I think we talked about what and why it's important. So in your opinion, like how do you get healthy boundaries?
Well, you have to know yourself to some degree, and to do that, I think you have to really spend time questioning and looking at yourself.
Yes.
Asking myself, what's important to me? What's good to me? What's evil to me? What does a healthy relationship look like to me?
Yes.
What do I not want my partner to do? And is honesty key? Like you have to figure out what pieces you need and what pieces are off limits to you, and you have to really define those into your belief structure to a point that when, like, I know that this is something, like, I know in a relationship I need trust. If there's no trust, if I can't trust a person, then we can't communicate. If we can't communicate, there's really no relationship.
Right.
So if I'm in a relationship and I know that, and then all of a sudden I start seeing a pattern of lying, well, I'm sorry, here's a boundary. I'm going to give you another try. If I love you a lot, if you're really hot, I'll give you two more tries. And I mean, I'm just being real about it.
Oh,
and then that's the boundary. That's the wall. That is the that is where the limit is.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I would agree. I think that healthy boundaries, I would really recommend getting this book. If you're really serious and you're like, I don't even know what that means or where to start with this book, because I think it would give you some really good insights. And it's really about reclaiming yourself, which is, I think, key to boundaries. You have to learn how to reclaim who you are in order, and it's a practice. You have to educate yourself. And then I would agree, you got to figure out who you are. And if you're always like outflowing and doing and going, and you never take any time to sit with yourself or journal or write about who are you?
Writing's powerful.
What do you want? Where are you going?
I like writing.
Yeah. Make lists. What are your values? If you don't know where to start, what are your values? What are your morals? What's important to you? And what's a deal breaker?
Yeah, what do I hate? And then you just write under that. Writing lists.
I know there are some people who are like, I do not like writing, then record it. I don't know. Whatever your thing is, but I think that's
it's good advice.
It's good. It's like
advice.
you meditate. Do things that are inward. Maybe take a break from so much outward. Do some inflow. And you'll start to discover who I am. And it's like with anything, if you put your attention on wanting to learn or know something, it's like any skill.
It'll happen.
So anyway, I'm going to
take a little break, Ski?
Yeah, let's take a little break. I was going to say, I'm going to keep working on my boundaries, because I think it's going to be one of those forever things for me, because I do like to people please.
Yeah. I'm going to work on not being an asshole.
If you need any help with that, let me know.
Yeah, I'm a lost cause.
We're going to take a break. We'll see you in a minute. Thanks. That was good. My brain's clacking. Clickety-clack.
Back one more time.
I'm not sure if I'm ready for the next one. Do I have enough brain power
I haven't
for
even
one more
picked the
topic?
next one yet.
Oh my gosh, dang.
All right.
All right.
Topic 2. I mean, I don't know what it is,
Drum roll.
so let's talk about the unknown.
What?
What do you know about the unknown?
God. Oh, I don't even know what to say about that.
Yeah, that's kind of the definition.
Unknown in what capacity? The unknown.
Well, the unknown, I think, is a couple things. I think it's honestly one of the most terrifying things.
Yeah.
It's always kind of what people have equaled to darkness, the predator in the night. there's just hidden threats
The
around every corner.
underworld of death.
Stay next to the fire, you know. Stay where you know. Stay with the people you know in familiar territory, and nothing can go wrong. It's not true, but it's people fear the unknown.
Oh God, yes.
Why do you think that is?
Because we don't know. Because there's such a fear. I think there's but I think there's this like primitive thing in us that ultimately all leads back to the fear of death. You know.
Yeah.
I think it goes back
unknown.
But before I go there, I have to say this feels like it's kind of piggybacking off of the topic of comfort. You know, because the whole thing of moving into discomfort is going into the unknown. It's always, I mean, like doing that podcast, it was completely unknown. I didn't know what I was going to say. I didn't know how it was going to happen. So the fear of that was I'm going to look stupid. You know, it's going to be boring. You know, it's a waste of time. Nobody cares. Why am I, you know, like all that usual unknown stuff, right?
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
So in that situation, it's the unknown of also like opening up a door of maybe a new part of my life that I don't really want. Like what happens if, you know, now more people are knocking on my door wanting something, or, you know, like it's going to require me to do more technology and media, which I'm not really a big fan of. But I'm using it.
Me neither.
That's kind of what? Paradox.
Yep. Let's get into it. It's also more than just terrifying. It's exhilarating.
True.
It's infinite possibility.
Yeah, that's true.
The land of the imagination. You can imagine it. You can maybe find it out there somewhere where we haven't been yet. You know, you're stuck in a small village growing up. Go beyond the edges of the maps that have been drawn. You know, go out and find adventure. See what's out there. Yeah, this also ties into what we were just talking about, discovering yourself.
Yeah.
In order to draw boundaries, you have to have an idea of what your boundaries are, what you're willing to tolerate.
Yeah.
So, how do we discover those things that we don't know about ourselves? It's very much a give and take, because part of it, like we were talking about, is self-reflection. But a good chunk of it also is trial and error. Like a lot of times we just don't know who we are or what we like until we try a chocolate or until we go to another culture.
Or we talk to a person that we feel like is different than us.
Yeah, or we get in a terrible relationship.
Yeah.
You know? Like I think everybody has to have one of those.
Oh gosh.
Have you met anybody that has just like married their grade school sweetheart and they're just good to go?
Forever and ever and ever?
Forever and ever.
I have met people who have married their sweethearts, but is it?
It's not all roses.
No.
But no relationship is. But if it survived, their entire life, that counts for something.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and it's interesting because it brings me back to the unknown is kind of what I've come to know in my own opinion and understand that this world that we live in is really built on the principle of the unknown, so that we have a playing field to evolve,
to learn.
I mean, isn't that really like the cornerstone of everything for us? It's like evolving and learning, like falling down, learning, falling down, learning, falling down, learning. And sometimes we get it and we're like, you know what? I've fell in that pothole 25 times. I think I'm ready to walk around it now.
You maybe learn to jump.
Yeah. Yep. And then that's an unknown.
Yeah.
And then you're like, okay, well, I'm not going to do this. I know. But then you're like, landing in another unknown.
It's true.
And then you're like, shit. At least I knew that one. I think that's why we also stay sometimes. Because
better the devil you know.
We talk about that. Yeah. It's like, I know this.
Yep.
I mean, that's what kept me from doing my podcast. I know this world.
Yep. I know this suffering.
Yeah.
Yep.
That one, that's new.
Yeah.
It might hurt.
A coworker of mine made a really good point, or I thought was pretty interesting. He was saying, why is it that things that are the most terrifying are almost comfortable? You know, like why are things that are the most scary? They're almost something that are familiar. Like, for example, like, you know, the uncanny valley effect, where all like the most terrifying monsters are like humanoid with like slight changes to them, right? So it's like, it's a human, you know it, it's familiar, it's one of you, but it's a little
It's a little
off. Yeah.
And it's gonna get you.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, well, have you had an experience recently where something unknown is before you and you're gonna walk into it or through it anyway?
Yeah, all the time, really. Although I've been in kind of a routine the last handful of years, obviously building a business is very unknown.
Mm-hmm. Oh, God,
obviously, looking for a relationship is very unknown.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, you know, putting stuff out on the internet for the first time, you know, starting 6 months ago or whatever, very unknown. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, the list is endless.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, yeah,
It's a tough topic.
it is a tough topic, you know, and where do you know, like, I think for me right now is how to deal with the emotions around moving into the unknown. And then, you know, and it's interesting because it's going to change in different segments of your life, right? The unknown in my 20s is very different than in my 60s.
Oh, I believe
Because now I'm, you know, and it was very different than in my 50s, which for me, most of my 50s was spent going through cancer and survival and recouping. And the unknown in that world was literally life and death. You know, that was the unknown I was dealing with. It's like, will my body heal? Am I going to die? Is the cancer going to come back?
Yeah.
You know, am I ever going to be normal? You know, and will I ever find these parts of myself again that were lost? You know, there was a lot of those kinds of unknowns. And then now I feel like, you know, I am going to live. You know, I have got the diagnosis. I mean, and we all know our numbers up sometime, but there isn't like that looming clock that's conscious, you know. And so now it's like the unknown is, you know, how can I best use, like, I'm one of the lucky ones that lived and survived. So how am I supposed to use this time, you know? And I think that's why I push myself into the unknown, because I am so grateful for this second, third, fourth, 10th chance. I don't know.
What was the scariest part about facing death in your experience?
So it's interesting because you kind of do go through the phases, right? And the phases for me were, you know, the immediate, like the resistance and the like, no, this isn't happening. This
The denial.
The denial, like, you know, this isn't happening. And then that quickly, you know, and you feel that resistance, like you feel how you're trying to exert that human control that we think we have, where we can just will shit to happen, which I did most of my life in a lot of different scenarios. I willed myself to do this or be that or go there. When you're in this situation, you're trying to pick up that tool and you're trying to will against the dark place that feels like it's up ahead, because it's like the big unknown that we all know is there, and something is invisibly like pushing you towards it anyway. And so the first reaction is like, no, you're trying to put that boundary up. It's not working. You know, something higher than you is going like, sorry, sister.
Rips it away.
Rips it away, and you're like, shit. And then you move past that, and then when you realize that you literally, something physiologically happens, you realize you don't have any control. And you probably never did have any control. And I feel emotional on this again. Then you kind of like, you surrender. And then once you surrender, it's like the fear of the unknown is, first of all, being removed from the story. The story of the life, the story of your children, the story of your sisters and brothers, the story of your love relationship, the story of your career. You suddenly can see the game and you're being pulled out of the game. And it's like this heart-wrenching, like, but I don't want it's like sometimes when you watch a movie, right? And it's ending and you're like, I don't want it to end. What's going to happen next?
Yeah.
It's that feeling of being removed from the story. And you're like, and it's this excruciating pain for a moment. And then you again go through that. And then it's like, oh, but love. I'll always be connected. And then for me, that's when all the memories and experiences just came flooding in, and it replaced the fear of the unknown. And then it was like I was completely like in an ocean of my mom and my dad. And one of my favorite memories that came to me was in the summertime when my little brother and I were young. My dad would irrigate the backyard. You know, we'd have pipes that you flood you don't like use sprinklers. We would do flooding, and we'd pull it from the drain ditch. And so our whole yard would have water, and we'd have boards, and we'd be out there like swimming and skating on boards. And oftentimes it was in the evening on summer. And so my dad would be standing there in his big hip boots and his white t-shirt and his hat and his little, shovel, waiting for the water to flood. And mom would be in the kitchen, like barbecuing chicken. And I mean, it was just like the most idyllic summer evenings of like my favorite. And so I was thinking about that, and I could feel all the love coming in. And then it kind of just like was fading out into this like nothingness. Like it was just like the light was getting, the feeling stayed, but the light was getting, it just felt like maybe if you, I know this is graphic, but cutting your wrist, like having your life force. I just felt my
like
life force leaving my body. Like I just felt myself coming out of my body and going. And I didn't quite reach the light, but I just felt the sense that I was leaving, And then just quickly, I'll tell the rest of the story. So then at that moment, a nurse I was in the hospital at this time. And I was very, very ill after my first round of chemo. And the nurse comes in, which I thought she was an angel because I was so far out of my body. And the way the door opened, the light was shining in. And so I thought, because I couldn't see her face or anything, it was just kind of like this vague, foggy, and something comes really fast over to my bed and says, I hear these words like, and I kind of remember focusing on her face then, and her face was like, like I could tell it was like an oh shit moment. Like she recognized I was dying, and she said, whatever you want to do, I'll help you, tell me. And it was like those words just kind of pulled me back into my body a little bit, and I just started to cry, and I was like, I don't know what to do. And she's like, well, if you want to live, you need to let me give you some Dilaudid right now, 200 milligrams, because you haven't been taking any pain medication, which was true. I was so afraid of becoming dependent on drugs. And so, and she says, and then tomorrow you have to tell the doctor that that's what you want. And so she did. She ran out of the room. She came back. She gave me the shot in my IV. And immediately I felt myself come back from that unknown space. It was just like, and then and then I came back to life. And there's more after that. But I will say that I did touch the big unknown in that experience.
Yeah.
And so I will say I don't feel like I grapple with death like maybe a lot of people do. Like when COVID hit, like so many people were afraid of dying and being sick. And fortunately, that was one of the big blessings that came from that experience, is I had already processed for years at that point, coming from that experience and still touching back into death many times, that I didn't have to go through that experience. But there is something to that. So to answer your question, that's a long answer.
It's a great answer.
Yeah.
It's a real answer.
But it's really interesting. And since then I practice detaching from the story, like trying to put that boundary and letting myself observe life and people and still love them, but not have this enmeshed where I can't detach, because I know that that's, like I'm on the second half of my life here. And at this point, it is really about learning to detach more and more and more and more, and stepping more and more into the unknown.
It's true. Yeah.
So
It is the big unknown.
yeah.
And we all are moving towards it. The world,
Yeah.
this physical realm, is the map, is the game that we play.
Yeah.
And there's that abyss, that boundary that we're slowly moving towards along this timeline. I actually just had a classmate pass away a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
It's
so sorry.
It's been up a little bit.
Yeah.
And death, I think there's two reasons to really be afraid of it. There's, I'm losing everything, which is true. And then there's, the people I love are losing me. And I think those are both very reasonable things to feel about death and the unknown in general. Like if I kind of had not a death, but I uprooted myself and was like, you know what? I don't really want to believe in family and roots. I just want to go out and travel the world and be out and about. And I pretty much did just up and run, kind of abandoned. Not really. I went out on a couple year adventure, but we were very disconnected for that couple years.
Yeah.
And I was very much out in the unknown. I didn't know who I was going to meet or where I was going to be staying or what I was going to eat or how I was going to afford any of it. Every day I just woke up, rolled out of my hammock on the side of some highway somewhere, probably in Mexico, and packed up my bags and got on a bike and kept going further into the unknown.
Yeah.
And, I lost everything that I knew. I left all my things and friends and family and possessions behind. And I also left them without me. So it was a similar thing. Kind of selfish, yes, maybe. Kind of terrifying, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But it also is part of the journey that really defines you and gives you a lot of strength and a lot of story. I liked the way that you described death as the thing that you were concerned about at first was that you were leaving the story. I like that a lot. I like to tell myself and other people who I can bother enough to listen that life is the story. I like to say, live life like it's the story you want to tell.
Oh, absolutely.
We get to talk about what we did after we do it. And if you believe in honesty, well, then you have to tell the events as they actually happened. The fish was about that big, not that big, although the bigger fish story is better. So, have some fun. Do some things that make you proud to be you. Step out there and really kind of, be on the edge a little bit, because we're getting closer. And until then, this story is what we have, and it's very much beautiful, colorful. And so I went to Mexico and abandoned everything, but I did realize that family is very important. And being in this story is very important. And having a network of people that have known me my entire life, it's pretty freaking awesome.
It is.
Yeah. So
it really is.
So I'm not ready to abandon the story either.
Yeah. No.
God bless my my departed classmate and all the other people around the world who have
her
left.
Family, sending so much love.
It's part of the journey. It's part of.
It is.
It's part of the experience.
And it's the other thing that I think about, like, we talk about what are the constants, well, death and change.
Yeah.
Those are the two things that I am like, well, what is consistent always? Those are the two. And those are the two that none of us are going to avoid, like we're all going to share that unknown experience. We all might pick other unknown experiences, but that one, the ultimate one, we are all going to be experiencing. And again, with kind of going back to the boundaries, and I just want to say this, and
Yeah.
the self-exploration, oftentimes when I'm feeling afraid about something unknown, I'll sit with it and I'll try to like be with it and like, well, why? What is it that's so scary about this unknown? And I try to follow that thread all the way back. So if it's like an unknown job or an unknown group of people I'm going to be meeting, or an unknown, anything, I'll sit and I'll try to follow that thread. Like, why is this creating so much fear, like, about this unknown? 'Cause again, I think everything is just about learning who you are and practicing your muscles. Like, like it's, it's not, I might feel fear, but it's not typically going to be the end of me if I go into that unknown situation,
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's something that I'm always doing, is like bringing it back in, and how can I learn more about who I am? Because with the podcast, I was afraid, and I did that, and I was like, well, what's the worst case scenario? Dun, 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 dun. Okay, I'll live through all those. I'm going to do it anyway, because I feel like it's more important to do it than not do it.
Yeah.
And so everything's kind of all, I feel like many of our podcasts are kind of coming into these.
So, yeah,
They all can like touch into this tapestry. Actually, it is all one big tapestry.
It is.
And it's all just different little pieces, and I think that's what's so beautiful.
It was also a tough topic, so we had to go off the road a little bit.
We did. I was like, what? Yeah. But one of the things, unless there's, before we wrap up.
I think we're about there.
Yeah. I just wanted to say something that's been really sitting with me is that I have learned and grown so much by doing this podcast. But what I will say is that it's not being filmed that's creating the change in my life. It's meeting and talking about topics. And I just want to invite you, if you want to expand and learn and grow, invite a couple of people to come over once a week or once a month, and just have a conversation about stuff.
Hit them with some topics.
Ask some questions. Yeah, everybody bring your own topic, because I have changed so much. I think that's been the biggest surprise, is what a catalyst of changes has been for my life.
I love conversation.
Yeah.
It's really, I talk about how important communication is.
Yeah.
Conversation is communication in practice, and there's an art to it, and you can learn from it. You can develop relationships through it, and you can really challenge yourself to expand.
Think and grow. Yeah.
Yep.
And it's purposeful conversation. It's not gossiping and
talking about the misses and just
what we hate and don't like about the it's
how the Trailblazers doing.
Yeah, think of if you do feel inspired, pick inspiring, creative, mind expanding topics.
Pick uncomfortable, unknown topics.
Yeah. Hey, I'll cheers on that one.
All right.
Thank you, everybody.
I'm going to take a second just to say I'm going to dedicate the next week. I'm going to try and do a little more introspection, sit with myself a little bit more, really understand what are these fears that I'm still sitting with that are stopping me from progressing in life in meaningful ways.
Yeah.
So I'm going to carry that forward.
Yeah.
Ask me how I did next week. Hopefully I'll have good news.
Yeah. I want to hold you to that.
Accountability, baby.
Accountability. And I'm going to do the same with that too. It's like I'm still in my uncomfortable zone. So I'm going to keep just moving forward and working on my boundaries with myself, and, where I can keep healthy self-care. That's what I'm going to be working on.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Everybody keep the conversation going.
Yeah.
Talk to your best friend. Talk to us.
Yes.
Talk to
Let us know how you enjoy
a stranger on the street.
Yeah. And we're going to post our websites also in the link, so that if you want to go and check us out. I think that's it. I feel complete.
It was a pleasure coming coming for you. It was a
pleasure coming for you.
It was a pleasure. I'll catch you all down the road here.
Yeah, have a great 2 weeks, you guys. Big blessings, big love. Yeah. Be well.